Coming up on Indians Tonight, baseball is back and so are we. Plenty to talk about in the world of sports as we say welcome back to the boys of summer and let's play ball. What changes we should expect for the 2020 MLB season and how differently baseball will look.
This is the new normal. This is what you have to get used to.
It's been a busy few weeks for the Browns as training camp gets set to kick off in the NFL soon.
We have the chance to make a run at the playoffs.
And oh yeah, we'll travel down I-71 to recap a fun weekend of golf at the Memorial. Hey, we're still staying socially distant, but Indians Tonight starts now. Hello and welcome into Indians Tonight. I'm Nick Camino. We are brought to you by Union Home Mortgage, and boy, are we glad to be back with you for the first time in a long time, since March, that we've been able to talk some sports with you. We are just days away from opening day down at Progressive Field, and this season will be one for the ages. I mean, unlike anything we have ever experienced before, for several reasons. When the 2020 Major League Baseball season finally gets underway for your Cleveland Indians, it'll be unlike any year we've ever seen on the baseball diamond. It already is. Once spring training was halted due to the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a 4-month layoff for baseball that was mostly littered with a labor dispute between the owners and the players' union. What else is new? But this week marks the start of a new beginning. We will have a baseball season after all. And while it'll be a far cry from the 162-game marathon we're used to, a 60-game sprint to the finish is sure to provide the entertainment baseball fans have been craving. It's almost go time.
And when that season starts, it goes on the back of your baseball card, whether people are in the stands or not.
Expectations are high again for the Indians as many baseball experts are expecting a 3-team race in the AL Central between the Tribe, the Twins, and the Chicago White Sox. Speaking of that name, Indians, will this be the final season we call them that?
Society is, like I say, shifting, and we are due for some change.
Change is most certainly coming in more ways than one. Coronavirus testing and social distancing will be the new normal in MLB. And oh, by the way, there's that 72-year World Series championship drought that's currently the longest stretch without a title in baseball.
The Cleveland Indians are the world's champions of 1948.
If the Tribe can somehow finally win it all, I don't think anyone in Cleveland will worry about this unprecedented upcoming season. Can't wait for all of that. Hey, Indians have had 2 exhibition games against the Pittsburgh Pirates. They won on Saturday, 5-3. They will play again tomorrow at Progressive Field. And then they will wrap up this trio of exhibition games on Wednesday at PNC Park. Hey, they did this. You see it? You get a chance to see this? And this is the times we're living in right now with the coronavirus. Players and staff using plenty of precaution. There's the new high five for the Indians, the foot tap. What is that, a low five there? Look at Terry Francona dapping up his guys after the win on Saturday in Pittsburgh. So we're just 5 days away from opening day, and I mean, this is going to be a season unlike any other. The Indians are taking on the Kansas City Royals at Progressive Field to start the 2020 season. So who will be on the mound for the Tribe? That's going to be your pitching performance report brought to you by Union Home Mortgage. The reigning All-Star Game MVP, Shane Bieber. He will be just 25 years old when the season opens. That makes him the youngest Indians pitcher to take the ball on opening day since CC Sabathia in 2004. Bieber has pitched some exhibition games at Progressive Field over the last 2 weeks, and he says really things seem pretty normal so far.
Not something that's going to be that difficult to get used to. I felt like we had a pretty good game scenario type feel, obviously other than facing your own teammates, but yeah, things seem pretty normal. I didn't really notice too much out of the ordinary because you kind of lock yourself in and you're focusing on trying to execute pitches. And it'll definitely be doable.
All right, joining me now, it is longtime Indians beat writer Paul Hoynes. You read him on Cleveland.com. You follow him on Twitter at Hoynesy. Nice enough to join us under some crazy circumstances. We know that this is a year unlike any other. Hoynesy, listen, really appreciate the time. What's this all been like for you? I mean, you were at spring training. That got halted. We saw a bunch of different labor negotiations going on. That got a little bit ugly between the owners and the players union. You get back for summer camp or spring training 2.0, whatever we're calling this. And I mean, what's this been like covering this?
It's been the longest spring training in history, Nick. It never ends, man. But I guess we got some light at the end of the tunnel. But it has really been strange, especially the second part. You know, watching the inter squad games at Progressive Field, and no fans. You know, piped in music. Just really, really strange. It almost doesn't seem real. We're confined to the press box. Everything's a Zoom call, and for the players, it's got to be even stranger.
Yeah, Hoynes, I mean, for the social distancing and the masks and the testing that they're going to have to go through, it's almost like this new normal. But I don't know that anyone's going to get used to it, right?
Yeah, I don't think so, Nick. And, you know, this is a time when having a manager like Terry Francona is really, I think, going to help in this regard. This is a guy that's been through a lot of stuff. You know, he's down 3-0 to the Yankees, you know, and came back to win the World Series. He, you know, kind of reinvented the use of the bullpens in 2016 when the Indians got to the World Series. So this is a guy it's made for unique situations.
Hoynesy, for the longest time, and maybe even you taught me about this when I first started covering the Indians, baseball's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? We heard that for the longest time. 162 games, the cream rises to the top. If you make the playoffs, you've earned it. I feel like we're throwing that all out the window this year. This is a 60-game sprint. This is almost going to have like an NFL feel to it, Paul.
Yeah, it really is. And I think anything can happen. I don't think it's not going to be a case where the best team always wins. You know, you look at the Indians after 60 games, and they were barely a 500 club. The Washington Nationals, after 60 games, you know, were a terrible club, and they came back to win the World Series. But now, you know, 60 games is it. So it's kind of, you know, you gotta start fast and keep going.
Last thing, got to ask you about Frankie Lindor. I mean, everybody talks about him, you know, what type of role he's not only going to play in this, but how do you think this affects his future in Cleveland, this shortening of the season, and he still has another year left after this?
Yeah, Nick, I think, you know, they made their decision during the winter, this past winter, not to trade him. They couldn't foresee this pandemic, you know, surfacing. So I think they're going to live by that. I think they carry him through this 60-game season, and then I would imagine they trade him because there's no way they're going to be able to sign him. So I think he's probably gone after this year, and they'll give it one more shot with Frankie. But I mean, you know, that's just my opinion. Like we've seen him do this before, where you know they've ridden a guy out through his free agent year, like Michael Brantley, and then you know let him walk away. So we'll see how this works out.
You see the Indians staying in this thing the entire race? I mean, they're not going to – I mean, I know they've gotten off to some slow starts under Tito, but for the most part, you think they're in this till the very end?
I do, Nick. I think 60 games. I think there's going to be a lot of teams. It's going to be crazy. The tiebreakers and everything else is going to be insane because 60 games, I mean, anything can happen. I think there's going to be a bunch of teams in line for those 2 wild card spots. I wish – you know, the Players Association and the owners could have agreed to an expanded postseason because that would have been even wilder.
Paul, listen, really appreciate the time. I mean it when I say it. Good luck this year covering this baseball team.
For sure.
It has been quite the whirlwind this year for new Indians outfielder Delino DeShields Jr. He tested positive for COVID-19. You remember that? He had to miss the first few weeks of Tribe summer camp. Then after working out just one day here in Cleveland, he wound up on the 10-day injured list. But saying all that, DeShields still saying, hey, being in Cleveland is refreshing. It's a great place to be right now.
This is probably the safest place that we can be. I feel like we have everything. We have masks available, hand sanitizers everywhere. The training staff and the clubhouse staff are doing a great job of making sure that everything is clean. So I think just being outside of the ballpark is probably the toughest thing.
Francisco Lindor, everybody's talking about him right now. What are the Indians going to do with him? Do you trade him? Do you keep him? What do you do? Frankie says, I'm not thinking about any of that.
I haven't really thought about what's going to happen after this year or in the middle of this year or next season. To be honest, I haven't really thought of that because there's plenty of other things that I got to think of.
Hey, don't forget, you'll be able to watch the Tribes opener against the Royals right here on WKYC starting at 7:10. We'll have our opening day preview show for you starting at 5 o'clock. Coming up, masks on, no high fives, no tobacco. There's a lot of new rules in MLB this season. Our very own Pat Chiesa breaks it down more next.
Well, I think our guys have done a really good job of doing what we've asked them to do. I don't think any manager is going to be really comfortable with, we're all going to be holding our breath a little bit. I mean, when we come out of spring training after a normal spring training, you kind of hold your breath. So there'll be a lot of that, but I'm really pleased with how our guys have handled things.
Hey, we're finally getting baseball back. Now we just need to make sure it stays back, right? As Pat Chiesa shows us, Major League Baseball is going to look a lot different, and they're going to do everything in their power with their players to make sure that when it comes to new rules and looks, it might be a little bit strange, but this is all to try and make this keep going. Pat takes a look.
Progressive Field will be an unusual sight this summer. Instead of filling these seats, fans will be on the outside looking in. Coronavirus has forced Major League Baseball to adapt, and there's so much more to it than playing in vacant stadiums.
It's definitely, different, but this is, what we're going to have to do to be able to play the season.
You'll still see strikeouts, diving catches, and home runs.
But he's not going to get out of that pitch.
But celebrating those moments will look a lot different. No more high fives and hugs.
Instead of handshakes, we're watching the Tribe doing foot shakes as they leave the field.
The Indians are getting creative to keep their teammates safe.
It basically comes down to respecting the man next to you. He's got a family member that may be high risk.
In the dugout, coaches are required to wear masks. Bench players sit in the stands. And no matter where you are in the ballpark, MLB has outlawed that bad habit that's always been a part of baseball. To keep players from spitting, sunflower seeds, shelled peanuts, and chewing tobacco have all been banned. Pitchers aren't even allowed to lick their fingers to grip a baseball anymore. Instead, they're being told to carry around a wet rag in their back pocket. Off the field, players are tested for COVID-19 multiple times a week. Lockers are now spaced out to promote social distancing. Reporters still get to interview all the stars.
This is a camp unlike we've never seen before.
But instead of in person, it happens on Zoom.
This is the new normal. This is what you have to get used to. If we buy into it and we just go out there and play and let the rest take care of itself, we're going to be the better team at the end of the day.
So much has changed with baseball's new normal, but the prize is still the same. And the team that embraces that change the best could be World Series champ. They'll just have to get used to that cheering soundtrack. For 3 Sports, I'm Pat Chiesa.
Great stuff, Pat. Our sports flashback brought to you by Northeast Factory Direct. Great furniture, great prices. It was this week back in 1941 at Municipal Stadium that Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak came to an end. Coming up, it was a very busy week for the Browns. Myles Garrett becoming the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. We'll hear from Myles after his big payday coming up next. Well, it was a busy week for the Cleveland Browns. On Wednesday, They signed second-round pick Grant Delpit. He signed his rookie deal. With that signing, the Browns have now signed their entire draft class from 2020. It's great news. Well, Myles Garrett has been one of the best players in the NFL the last 3 years, and now he's getting paid like it, as he should be. The All-Pro defensive end signing a big, and I mean big-time contract extension this week with the Browns. Myles going to get paid as he should. Brings us to our play of the day, brought to you by Mr. Hero. He signed a extension for $125 million, a 5-year deal. It makes Myles the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. Heck, he's the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL.
We had the chance to make a run at the playoffs, and I had a chance to solidify myself as top 2 defensive players in the league, and hopefully not be considered number 2. So I have that to prove next year, and we got to show that this talent can come together and win some games, win big games.
Coming up, the Memorial wrapping up in Columbus today. Who won Jack's tournament? We head down to Columbus next. Our game of the day brought to you by Brunswick Auto Mart. Car buying made truly simple. We go down to the Memorial down in Columbus, and your winner right here, John Rahm. He was fantastic all tournament. That's going to do it for this edition of Indians Tonight. Have a great rest of your week, and stay safe out there.